Hello and welcome to another video for Minus Touch Toys, Games, Collectibles. And today, well, we're looking at something that is now quite old. It's almost 30 years old. It's become very collectible and is becoming harder and harder to find, especially in this near mint condition. We are looking at the 1996 release by IPI from their Star Trek series of electronic miniature keyrings, and these consisted of communicators, phasers, tricorders, and they're all electronic and they're all based on Star Trek. This particular one we're looking at today is from Star Trek The Next Generation and is the Type 1 phaser keychain, which is with authentic phaser sounds and keyhole light. And it's just as the ones seen in the very, very popular 1980s series Star Trek Next Generation, which aired from 28th of September 1987 through to the 23rd of May 1994. It spanned 178 episodes over the 7 seasons, and it was the 3rd series in the Star Trek franchise, or the 2nd live action one. So we had Star Trek the original series, we had Star Trek the animated series, and then we had Star Trek the Next Generation. So 7 seasons, 178 episodes, and each episode had a budget of $1.3 million. Very, very popular. One of the most popular syndicated programs on television back in the 1980s and early 90s. It really catapulted Star Trek up there to being probably at that time the most successful or the most popular sci-fi television series in the world at that time. Anyway, this is the Type 1 phaser keychain in front of us. And this is the card it comes in, and it says Star Trek The Next Generation, Phaser Type 1 keychain with authentic phaser sound and keyhole light. And there's an image of Mr. Worf there, or Lieutenant Worf, as he was in Star Trek The Next Generation, together with the Type 1 phaser that he's holding when he's on an away mission. Okay, that's the front of the card. Let's just turn the card around to the back. And let's see what we got on the back here. So on the back here, it says Star Trek Next Generation Phaser Type 1 keychain. Before operating, open battery hatch as shown in diagram. Remove plastic tab. Replace battery hatch. Battery replacement. Open battery hatch as shown in diagram. Note position of batteries. Replace in same position with LR44 or A76 batteries. Additional keyring chains available. And you've got Star Trek, the original series communicator, Star Trek, the original series tricorder, Star Trek, the sound effects keychain, Star Trek, the Next Generation sound effects keychain, and Star Trek, the Next Generation tricorder. And then there was a few more that was added to that afterwards. Join the official Star Trek fan club today for only $16.95 by calling 1-800-2-FAN and use your Visa or MasterCard. Copyright information, Paramount Pictures 1996, and their address at the bottom there, item number and products made in China, barcode and the barcode number at the bottom there. Okay, that's the back of the card. Now this particular one we're looking at today, now this was a shop display item. It spent quite some time in a shop counter before being it was open. Let me explain this to you properly. The card was opened and it was on a shop counter display together with a complete set of these keychains. So once the display was over, they were returned to the packets and sent to the storeroom, and there they sat in the storeroom for getting on for about 30 years until we actually went in and we bought out all the stock as the shop closed down. And in the back room was the whole set of these keychains that had just been put back on. Batteries have been removed from them, obviously. Otherwise, I'm sure they would have not been working or functioning or leaking over all this time period. But other than that, they're in immaculate condition. So let's open this up. Let's take the phaser out and let's have a look at how it works. Okay, so I removed the phaser from the packet, which wasn't very hard because it was already open anyway. And this is what we got. Now we'll have a look at that in a second. We do get this little bit of paper with it. I don't know what this is all about, so let's open it up and have a look. Oh, it's a limited warranty, so it tells you about the warranty. I shouldn't think it's going to be covered now anyway. I mean, 30 years after the item was produced, I don't think this warranty is going to be valid anymore anyway. So, but that was in the packet with the phaser. But let's have a look at the phaser. So what I have done is I have opened it up. Now in the back here, there's a battery section, and that just pushes off. And I put in 3 new batteries, as you can see in there. And I have put the battery cover back on. And there we have the keychain, and it is in the shape of the type 1 phaser, as you can see on the card. If I just zoom in on that image there and there you can see Worf holding that phaser from early in Star Trek The Next Generation. But we are looking at this here. So before we try it, let's get some measurements. So we are looking at about getting on for about 6.5, 7 centimeters in length. Let's just zoom out a little bit so you can get a whole view of this. So we're looking at about 6.5 centimeters. Width wise, we're looking at about 3.5 centimeters wide, and thickness wise is about 2 centimeters at the widest point here. So that's the size of the phaser. And then we've got a keychain, which, well, if we go at the end of the chain, we're looking at 4 centimeters, and then we've got the actual ring at the top, which also measures 2 centimeters. So overall we're 6 centimeters with the chain and the ring. Okay, let's see what we got. So we've got 3 buttons on here. So the first button here, let's press that. The first button is this one on here, and that we press that. Oh, there we go. So we get the light. So the light comes on, like the phaser firing comes on. And if we press the other button, okay. So we get the phaser sound. So what happens if we press the middle button? The light comes on. Oh, we get the sound as well. So the main button is the silver one there, and as you press it, you get the phaser lights up, and you also get the sound. You have to, if you press and hold it down, you won't get the sound. So you have to take your finger off it to get the phaser sound. Or you can just have the phaser sound by pressing the button on the right hand side. Or you can just have the light by pressing the button on the left hand side. So that's the buttons. I mean, it's quite a bright light in actual fact. Surprise, surprise. There's a phaser sound, and again there's so you can see how bright the light is as I'm pressing it against my hand. But there we have it. So that is the Star Trek The Next Generation Type 1 phaser keychain. So now you're going to ask me how well these did back in the day. Well, as I've already mentioned, back in the day in 1996 when these came out, Star Trek was a huge thing. It was, as I say, the most popular sci-fi television series in the world. As I say, we already had Star Trek, the original series. We had the animated series. Now we had Star Trek, the Next Generation. We had the first 6 movies. So we had the motion picture, the Wrath of Khan, the Search for Spock, the Voyage Home, the Final Frontier, and the Undiscovered Country. And then in '96 we just had Star Trek Generations, and we was awaiting for Star Trek First Contact to hit the screens. Star Trek Deep Space Nine was airing weekly on TV, and then we had Star Trek Voyager, which was the next TV series to hit the screens, and that was in 1995. That aired January 1995, and that one ran through till 2001. Another 7 seasons. So we had 7 seasons of the Next Gen, 7 seasons of Voyager, and 7 seasons of Deep Space Nine. And then, of course, after that we had Star Trek Enterprise, which I think was 3 or 4 seasons that ran for. But at the time, Star Trek was huge. It was the most popular sci-fi series on TV, and the Next Generation was just absolutely massive. So it was a big thing. Merchandise was being released left, right, and centre for Star Trek. There was figures, there was ships, there was shirts, there was plates, there was badges, there was pins, there was clothing, there was all sorts of things, and of course there was the keychains. With Star Trek, obviously they have to do everything better, so it's not just Star Trek keychains. These are Star Trek electronic keychains with sounds and light effects. So, answer the question, yes, they've done exceptionally well. I don't know the quantities that were produced, but they did produce them in a fairly large number. I do remember when we had the shop, it was Downpace was the distributor in the UK for these keychains, and we had a whole display coming from Downpace, which was a huge turntable, if you like, with these electronic key rings hanging from each arm. So, but yeah, so we had a lot of these come in, but they sold out very, very quickly. And then, of course, you got to wait again for the next batch to come in. But that was, you know, a lot of the merchandise as it was released back in the 90s would just go straight out the door. And these items were no exception. So let's move forward to 2025. So we're moving forward 29 years from 96 to 2025, which is where we are today. Do these appear very often on the platforms nowadays? The answer to that question is not no. They do come up occasionally, but nowhere near as often as they used to. You do usually find that they're loose when they come up on the platforms. You do find the odd occasional ones that are still sealed in the packets, but they are few and far between, and they do demand quite large sums of money compared to what they were when they first were released. So yes, they do come up, but again, if you're buying on a platform, just be a bit careful, because some of the platforms use stock photographs, and you could be looking at an image of a new one sealed in a pack, and the description might tell you it's new, sealed in a pack, but there's no new ones available, so you automatically goes to used. And if you're not careful at what you're ordering, you will order used. So do be a little bit vigilant, and if you see that there's no new ones available, do click the used icon and read what you're about to order. Otherwise you could be disappointed when it arrives. Or alternatively, we at Midas Touch, we have managed to find every one of these keychains. As I said, they were all former shop counter display items, so they have all been removed from the packet. They were on display for a while. The batteries were removed. However, we have replaced all the batteries with brand new batteries, and make sure they're all functioning, and we have returned them to the card, and they have very neatly been reattached to the card, and are now currently available to purchase on the Midas Touch website, which you can get to very simply by clicking the link below. It will take you straight to the website, where you'll be able to find this and many other vintage Star Trek items, and many other vintage toys, games and collectibles. Come to that. There's over 10,000 products currently available on the website for you to view and purchase at your leisure. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button, because we're uploading videos for every new item that goes into the website. There will be something for everybody, and I am absolutely positive that this is something that you will not want to miss, because we literally have thousands and thousands of new items which we're shooting videos for and uploading on a daily basis. So if there is something in particular you are looking for, something old that you've never been able to find, something quirky that you might want to buy for a friend, or perhaps just something from your childhood that you'd like to own again to help you recuperate those long lost childhood memories, well, stay tuned, keep watching, because you never know the next item we upload could be that item you've been looking for. Okay, that is it for me on this particular item. I do hope you've enjoyed reviewing this wonderful, wonderful Star Trek Type 1 phaser keychain with me. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next video. So bye for now.